Hey folks, happy Friday to you. Ben Luna here with you in Studio B for Local 43 TV today. In with some really special guests in the community, Miss Nichole Miller and Trea Dunnavant, part of the Lawrence County Substance Abuse Coalition and Grace House. Lots to talk about here as we dive in. So, good morning, my dear. Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning.
It
Thank
is
you for
good
having
to
us.
see you.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk off the top. What is LSAP, and then what is this new thing called Grace House?
Okay.
So LSAP coalition by its definition is a group of citizens like-minded coming together for a singular purpose. So Lawrence County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition, LSAP's long name, is basically a group of people who came together back at starting about 2016 with Barry Doss and T.R. Williams, who helped kind of lead that charge with citizens who were concerned about the opioid crisis in the community, as well as other issues that we're seeing, especially post-recession of 2008. And so they came together and worked together to create a coalition here in Lawrence County to address the substance use issues that they were seeing in the multifacets of the community.
And then from there, I understand the need kind of just it exploded for you guys because it really did start to fill in the gaps in taking care of some folks who needed care.
Absolutely. So one of the things, Ben, that Nichole and I talk about quite often is none of these issues that we talk about are singular issues. They're whole person issues, they're whole family issues, and then eventually they become whole community issues. Whether you're talking about us at LSAP, whether you're talking about Grace House, whether you're talking about Hope Haven, whether you're talking about Kids Place or the shelter, all of these issues that you're seeing in our community that especially these nonprofit agencies are working toward, they end up blending together and they affect our community greatly, from economics all the way to crime to schools and all kinds of different things. Those needs that we see in that begin to arise, and you begin to see that it's multi-generational and it's affecting kids all the way to grandparents and sometimes great-grandparents, and
Wow.
we're getting close to even great-great-grandparents in some
Oh,
generations.
wow. That's
So
incredible.
you're seeing a lot of different needs that are arising in that. One of those was the project the Grace House eventually is now working to address. And I don't know, Nicole, if you want to come talk about what Grace House is.
Oh, I would love to. I love Grace House so much. Grace House is a transition house. As we were coming along with DCS and making partnerships, we were noticing their needs for the caseworkers, and then also walking in, taking DCS response backpacks filled with hygiene items and age-specific needs, that there were air mattresses everywhere, and kids were having to stay the night because there was nowhere to go in between trying to find placement. And so when that happened, it meant that 2 DCS caseworkers were staying on site at all times too. So we really felt the calling, and we started looking at other transition houses across the state, making partnerships there, seeing what we liked, what we didn't like, if we wanted to fall underneath grants, if we didn't want to. And Lawrence County is an amazing community and county, and we just knew that if we could figure out what exactly it looked like for us, that we would be wrapped up in so much love and kindness, and we have. This past week, January 24th, was our 1-year anniversary for our first overnight visitor. That visitor, I think, probably hit us in the hundreds of.
Oh, wow.
In 1 year, we had over 100 children come through, but also we have a Grace House closet that has all brand new items in it. This aids DCS caseworkers to help with placements. It helps kids that come in, but then also too, it helps foster families and next to kinship placements, because not everybody's ready for children in the middle of the night, and that's normally when that happens. So, but then too, the thing that I love, why we named our house what we did, is grace. Everybody needs a little bit of grace.
Absolutely.
So we also come alongside families who are needing help getting back on their feet. So if we can help place children back in their homes, if we can send, laundry bags and hygiene bags and whatever the food box is, we want to be able to help you be the most successful you. And so I tell everybody all the time across the state of Tennessee, Grace House is unique. And I pray she always stays that way, because we're case by case. And we started out just focusing on Lawrence County children because we have some of the highest numbers in the state, and we have the highest numbers in our South Central region. And then we realized that we couldn't just focus on Lawrence County, and we are such a giving community. We have housed children across the region.
Oh, wow.
And not just the region. It's even happened outside the region. We had children come from Memphis to be able just to have a place for the night. So she has really opened her doors up, and we're working for her to be a nonprofit so that way we can move forward and she can stand alone hopefully one day. And right now she's under our umbrella through my grant and my job.
So the goal is to take Grace House and make it its own thing.
She will be her own nonprofit one day.
And to clarify, all of this is still, it is a nonprofit. LSAP, of course, Grace House, what you're working toward. And you guys collect donations of obviously financial gifts, but anything else that you all need in order to make Grace House a continued reality.
If you walk in our door just about any day,
Yes.
right at the front door is usually a box of donations from somebody. Nichole is constantly having people who come by. We have some really great volunteers in our community that have come by to even just help sort those things and do that. TCAT has been a great resource in helping us do some shelving projects and door projects and things just to change the inside of the house in which we're in to be able to be the full resources that it needs. And then it's cool even that we're able to partner with other nonprofits in the community that are looking at similar goals. So Clothe Our Kids has a similar goal in mind as far as helping kids that need those resources. And there's been partnerships like that that have been able to flourish over the time frame because sometimes we get donations that don't really fit our need,
Yes.
but it fits the need of our students long term. And instead of reinventing the wheel, why not partner together and work together toward a great goal? And so that's been a ministry that we've been able to partner with that has just watched students especially be able to walk away with some really cool opportunities. I know you have one story of a student that was the first time they had ever really seen brand new things. And they come away with some things that they were very, very proud of, in because for them, for the first time, they were able to walk away with a suit of clothing that made them feel very, very confident.
And that was thanks to Clothe Our Kids because those were actually gently used blue jeans from American Eagle. They were just brand spanking new to them. And we gave them the brand new boots. And I had to share that story with the ladies at Clothe Our Kids because I wanted them to know that their mission and their goals and their purpose was very successful. So some of the things that we need right now as of today, we're constantly in need of fast food gift cards locally because when children come in last minute, it's hard to put a food train together. Having food trains, people who are willing to cook a meal and drop them off when we know a kid's going to be there for more than 24 hours to 48 hours, that's very great and useful too as well. Or even just checking in and saying, hey, can I do a grocery stop for you? That helps out because we're all in constant flight mode all the time. The other thing is also, your monetary donations. When my closet doesn't necessarily have something or we see a need or whatever to sustain Grace House, it's nice to have those funds and not have to reach out. But like I said, the gift cards are the big, huge thing. Walmart cards, Kroger cards. You get a house full of teenagers and they go through some groceries like no other. Yes, but the amount of relief that Grace House has provided watching, because our caseworkers, that was my big thing too, not just loving on our children that come through the door, but our caseworkers are amazing because that's time away from their families.
Yes.
And so we feed them too as well. And I also love for them to sit down and eat with my visitors because that home-like feel, I guess our big thing with Grace House is how can we expect children to thrive and be active members in society if there's not foundations there set early in life? And how can we want them to be successful adults if we're not willing to invest in them?
Exactly.
So something as simple as sitting down to dinner is monumental.
It's huge.
When you got into this ministry line of work, this making a difference, and there are so many ways to describe it, how surprised were you to see how much of this need existed virtually under your nose, our nose collectively as a community for a long time?
Ben, I would say for myself, and Nichole, I know you have a different perspective having been from Lawrence County your whole life. I lived in Giles County for part of my life, and I knew about it in my own family. I knew about it in particular people. My dad was a pastor, so you're privy to certain situations and that sort of thing. But to the expanse of it, once you begin to dig into and you begin to realize all of us are affected by these things. You almost don't know a single human being right now that is not affected by substance use disorder or addiction. It's not affected by a broken home. It's not affected by something of that nature.
Mental health.
Even mental health or economic struggles that have caused certain things. And so when you begin to dig into that and getting into this work, I think, it was about a year in, starting to see certain situations that they weren't families that some of our people were wanting to strike out to, or to say, hey, this is going to be the situation. This is the demographic. These are the people. Yes. It was when it began to be people who were sitting around our table and going, the reality is, this is happening in my own home. This is in my own family. And when people began to, I think, be able to open up and go, I'm passionate about this, not just because I want to see my community flourish. I need it for my own family. And so I think one of the cool things that has happened over the time frame, at least for me, is being able to listen to people's stories and watch where their passion lies and how they are willing to not only overcome some of those things in their own family, but then see how it helps the greater community when they're able to share and when they're able to volunteer. And then we work into children who are in vulnerable situations that have no choice in the matter. And it's amazing to sit back and hear the stories that are there as well.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Anybody that's watching this, either when it debuts on the Friday morning edition of the show, or since it's always going to kind of live on social media as long as it's around in YouTube and whatever, I say this to most of my guests, a year from now, if you go back and watch this, where do you hope to be able to say a year from now, man, look how far we've come in 2024 to 25?
So for LSAP, I know you're really gung-ho about this one. For LSAP, I would say for us, the big things that we would like to see, been part of building a coalition is almost like flying a plane and building it at the same time. I know you're very aware of that in some of the world you've been in lately. And so I use the joke all the time about the Godfather, that making the business legitimate, so to speak. There's one thing to have passion to help people. There's another thing to make that an ongoing, sustainable thing. And so I think for us, that is the big thing that we're working toward in the next year, is more and more of those structural things, but also those opportunities that maybe in the past we've tried, but we haven't been as successful at that we'd like to see. One big one I know that we're looking forward to in the latter part of this year, a lot of our people who walk into recovery and treatment facilities, if you look at the list of things that they can and cannot have, it's amazing. I don't know if you looked around our community lately, but we have a growing homeless population.
Yes, we do.
And a lot of people aren't really knowing how to help with that and what does that look like and that sort of thing. One of the things that we're wanting to work on is something that we've seen other places throughout the nation that have things called blessing bags, where they've basically made every bit of a survival kit for someone who may be in the homeless situation, or they're traveling or that sort of thing. But also those kits need to be for those who are moving into the possibility of treatment. We know that a large percentage of our homeless population are dealing with substance use disorder or mental health issues or co-occurring issues. And really, how can we help them with other things like the resources of long-term care if they don't have the basic necessities? Much like what we're talking about with Grace House. How can we expect for better if we don't give them the basic things they need to survive? When you start looking at recovery and treatment options, there's a lot of things that you can't just go out Walmart and buy. You've got to get specific things. And so how can we help to build toward those things to where, as people are walking into a second chance, they have the possibility of survival, not just in the moment, but long term? And then that leads us to further questions that I hope a year from now we're ready to tackle, because we've addressed this. How do we move forward to continue to build toward the things that help all of our citizens strive, survive, and thrive in our community, that makes us all better collectively?
Absolutely.
For Grace House, I know you've got a lot of dreams and aspirations over the next year.
I do. I have a ton of dreams. Like once we get through where Grace House is just in a temporary location right now. Maybe not necessarily in a year. I definitely want our nonprofit and all of that established and everything. Maybe in a year, kind of having an idea and a goal of a permanent foundation and location, because there's a lot of times that they come in and we're not big enough. So our churches have stepped up and in our moment of crisis and having to have extra room. So maybe something bigger to where I have one wing on one end, and I can have like the co-ed, but right now it's case by case and all of that all the way across the board. But then also too, like I have major goals for Grace House, because a lot of times when children go into placement and they're aging out of the system, it's just a Band-Aid.
Yep.
So I would love to see, I think my daughter's 18 and she's going to college right now. I would love to see some stability in foster homes, and maybe it be like a connection of Grace House to where it's like, if there's not placement found, okay, well, you're going to stay here. We're going to get you, and we're going to get you trained up for your ACT. We're going to tour colleges with you, and then we're going to go on we're going to walk you through your next step of being an adult.
And Nichole, even in that, you address this from the LSAP side as well, because so many of the students that we're working with are students who are in maybe not situations that have gotten to this escalating point, but they're pretty close.
Yes.
And maybe their own substance use is starting to really affect their long-term journey. And there's been classes you and I know our Magistrate Duncan has worked with, and Katie Brazier, who's at our school system, has worked with to try to make progress in that. And I think over the next year, that's another goal of ours collectively, is how do we give more and more opportunities for those students who maybe they've struck out in some areas, but they need a second chance. And how do we help them long term? Because they too need that opportunity to become who they have the potential to be,
Grace House
or we end up
mentors.
being back here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the big thing one of the things I think Trea's like honing in on is Magistrate Duncan and we're always talking about how we would love to have like a teen recovery program or an after school program where it's like, hey, those kids who are needing help tutoring for their ACT, whatever we can do to help get them back on their feet, so then that way they're not through the court system as an adult, or
Yep.
it being open to anybody. Because some of the things that we find through some of our programs is even if they have insurance, sometimes their insurance don't cover for things to help them with their recovery in addiction at 16
Yep.
and 15 and 14, but they're not bad enough to need a residential, but they need just that little bit. So having something like that to change, generational cycles and break those addictions and mental health issues would be monumental.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, and I'm going to switch gears from host or whatever to the preacher mode in me.
Okay, yeah.
I don't do this often on this, but I'll tell you what they are here to represent and what they're here to talk about. And again, whenever you are finding time to watch this, and I hope if you can watch this whole piece, and regardless of who you are, where you are, and what position in life that you're in, there is something that you can do to help the work that they are doing.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you, what they are doing is working to help head off and save lives and make a difference. We as a community cannot blind eye this,
No.
because it has been blinded for many, 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 many years. And I don't think that's at the fault of anybody in particular. It's just been, well, this is a small community. We don't have those problems here. But what goes on behind closed doors, you watching at home or wherever, you don't know. I don't know what goes on in homes across the area. But I'm telling you, support, if at all possible, the work that they are doing, because this is investing in the future of the community and the region. Because if this goes untouched, and now that we know it exists and we keep a blind eye to it, in a year, in 10 years, in 20 years, we're going to look back and say, oh man, I wish we would have gotten a head start on getting this stuff taken care of for people having a bad day.
Yep.
Yes.
And one bad day can lead to a lifetime of bad days, or it can be what it is, just one bad day.
Ben, you opened it up, so we'll go there. One of the things that we really, really, really preach and support in our community is the idea of mentorships. You get in the church setting, we call them discipleship. It's the same thing. But it's the idea of people who, in your life, my life, have taken time to invest in who you are and to help you have confidence that you don't have, to help you see in you what you don't see, and to help push you toward those things that, honestly, I believe are designed by God to be what your piece to the grander puzzle of what we're all doing to make the world a better place. There are so many people who go, well, I can't do X, Y, or Z to help out. But you can influence a life positively around you. You can begin to find those opportunities. Maybe it's in the local church or a ball team, or volunteering with the PTO or whatever it is, in various ways that you can get to involvement with students around us who really just need someone to believe in them and to help them see what they can't see in themselves. I look back in my life, I know Nichole talks about this with certain people in her life, that we could go back to and go, that person pushed me and believed in me when I didn't see it in myself. And I didn't see it until now. But when I see it now, I go back and go, well, how can I be that for someone else? So many people in our community have great, great, great opportunities setting before them. Some of them in their own family, some of them in the community around them. And yet they don't see it as important as it is. I will tell you, we talk about counselors and different people all the time, but one of the things that I think Michael Atkins and I both share is the importance of cafeteria ladies.
Yes.
He talks about it all the time in his story. My mom was a cafeteria lady, and how many students still to this day will run up to her when we're out at a restaurant or whatever and sit there and sit with us at a table and start just spilling their life problems. Why? May not have been a licensed counselor, but it was somebody who took time to listen and to encourage them toward better. We can all do that. We all have that opportunity to do that. And there are organizations in our community that have the I Am for Kids has that possibility to do those things, collectively. But man, there's so many different opportunities our community presents that if you're just willing to do so, how much difference can you make for the trajectory of a life of a child?
I think just changing the stigma
Yeah.
of everything
Yes.
is monumental. One of the things that of all of the SROs I have watched come alongside kids, I mean, they don't want to have to punish, but one of the things that one of them said one time, and you could tell the child's eyes just kind of lit up, and it was a game changer, is yes, they had to sit there and put out the punishments and all this other stuff was the situation that had happened, but they gave them heartfelt mentorship, but then also said, how can I help you?
Yep.
I do not want to crucify you. I'm not here to crucify you. I have to do my job for one, but what can I do to help you? And I think having that change, that child opened up and we were able to get her the resources that she needed for sure. And I think as a community, or even too, like so many times you talk about a bad day. One of the things that we talk about too is that just because you're having a bad day, and we understand like getting that out or however, but we forget that everybody may be having that bad day. And I think about law enforcement or all of these entities that take so much scrutiny sometimes, like how hard is it just to be like, hey, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Refilling the cup.
To your point with Grace House, is
Yeah.
it wasn't just for the child. I think for LSAP, that's one thing we're striving to do all the time. Is it's not just for the person who needs help. It's all the people who've been helping in different ways that we don't necessarily understand. There's so many people who go, I can't make it to your meeting, or I can't do this. But they're out there doing things that honestly, they're helping us attain the vision we have of a safe, healthy, and drug-free Lawrence County. They're doing different things that are so important that maybe they're not physically able to do some things that we call them for, but they're able to do things that honestly are moving us in a forward direction. I mean, we talk about this with people like Ryan Egley all the time about how many businesses don't realize the fact that they're just employing people and that how much that makes a difference in a community, the economic difference that a community can make. We saw it back in '08. The reason why we're here, there was a lot of struggle. You know, I tell people all the time, we don't define time by Christ in Lawrence County. We define it by Murray, Ohio.
Yeah.
And it really is kind of one of those things that you can see, but as we have been building economically, how different that's making our community look and how people have hope.
Yes.
Maybe again that they didn't have at one time. And so any way we can provide hope, I think is honestly our goal and our mission altogether.
Yeah.
All right. If you want to be able to help out in providing hope, love, and grace, then all you have to do is contact these folks. They're located in the former budget building in downtown Lawrenceburg. That has moved. That has
We
moved on.
cannot take your
yes.
bill.
Yeah, you can't bring a solid waste payment there anymore. That's on up Mar Avenue. But if you go right again behind the Lawrence County Courthouse and Administrative Building, it's just down Mar Avenue, and you can't miss it. And go by, meet with either one of these wonderful human beings, and find how you can make a difference in somebody's life. All right. That is the morning show this morning on 43 TV Today. Thank you for stopping by. We'll see you back here next Friday. Have a blessed and wonderful day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.